Morning, children. So in today's science lesson, I would like to recall the headings like the sun, the moon, the earth, okay, and why days and nights are formed, why seasons are formed, and what is rotation and revolution. So we have already learnt about all these topics in the past, and today we are going to recall. Okay, we are going to recall about the informations which we already know about the sun, the moon, and the earth. Okay, so let's start. This is the sun. The sun is of which shape, children? Yes, it is spherical in shape. All right, so the sun is spherical in shape. It is not a circle, it is a spherical. It is of 3D shape. Okay, and it is a huge ball of fire. Why am I saying so? Because it's a huge ball that is very hot and is made up of gases, and those gases are burning all the time. Okay, so the sun is very, very, very hot, and it emits lots and lots of heat. Okay, because the gases are burning there all the time. Okay, we also know that the sun is a star, and it is the nearest star, though it is very, very far away from the earth. But if we compare it with the other stars in the sky, the sun is the nearest star, okay, to the earth. Now, the sun seems small to us because it is very, very far away from the earth. Okay, so the sun is a huge ball of fire. Okay, it's very, very big. It's enormous. But then it looks small. Have you ever seen the rising sun? It looks small, right? And why does it happen so? Because it's very, very far away from the earth. And that's the reason it looks small. The things which are far appears to be small in size. Okay, similar is the case of the sun. Now, as I said, the sun is a hot ball of fire which emits too much of heat and too much of light. So it is very bright and can damage our eyes. What? The light of the sun, the light which is emitted from the sun, it's very bright, and if you look at the sun directly, it might damage our eyes. So even if we look through the sunglasses, it still can damage our eyes. So we always prefer not to look at the sun directly. All right, children? Yes? So now we know facts about the nearest star, and the nearest star is the sun. All right. So now let's talk about our own planet, which is the earth. Okay, now if you look at the earth carefully, in our previous lesson I've spoken about this imaginary line which passes through the center of the earth. Okay, and this is known as the axis. So the earth moves around its own axis. It spins on its own axis as well. Okay, and the axis is tilted, so it's not straight, the axis is tilted. Okay, hence the earth is also tilted. All right, so this is what I have told you last time. Okay, if you look carefully, this is again an imaginary line which divides the earth into two equal parts. Okay, so the part towards the northern side is known as the northern hemisphere. I've written NH for it, northern hemisphere, and the part which is towards the south pole is known as the southern hemisphere. All right, okay, this is the axis. That's an imaginary line which passes right through the center from north to south pole. Okay, from the north pole to the south pole. And there's another imaginary line, this one, the black one, and this is called the equator, and it divides the earth into two equal halves. The part towards the northern hemisphere towards the north pole is called as northern hemisphere, and the part towards the southern hemisphere toward the southern pole is called as the southern hemisphere. All right, children, so this part is the northern hemisphere, that's the southern hemisphere. All right, Okay, now as I already said, the earth spins on its own axis, and the spinning of the earth is called the rotation. Okay, so the earth completes one rotation like this. And what happens when the earth causes this rotation? The days and the nights are formed. And how long does the earth take to complete one rotation? It takes 24 hours. Okay, so the earth spins on its own axis and take 24 hours to complete one rotation, and this causes day and night. All right, children? Okay, now the earth also moves around the sun in a fixed path, and that fixed path is called the orbit. Okay, that's the fixed path. All right, so the earth moves around the sun in a fixed path, and that fixed path is called an orbit, and the movement of the earth around the sun is called revolution. What is it called? Revolution. And what happens when the earth moves around the sun? What is formed? Yes, the seasons. Okay, the movement of the earth around the sun causes seasons, and the movement of the earth on its own axis, when it spins on its own axis, it forms this causes day and night, and when it moves around the sun, it causes the seasons. All right, yes, we have understood up till now. So I'll just lift it up, and I would like to give you a clearer view. See, this is the axis, that's the northern hemisphere. As the southern hemisphere was very difficult to write, but then the line which is dividing this sphere into two equal parts is called the equator. Okay, the portion or the part which is toward the north side is called the northern hemisphere, and the part towards the south of it is called the southern hemisphere. And the earth is on a tilted axis, so the axis of the earth is tilted. It's not straight. Okay, it is tilted, so the earth moves like this. All right, children? Okay, so now let's talk about this. That's the moon, and the moon is a spherical body. Again, it's spherical in shape, and it is dusty ball of rock. So it's a ball of rocks made up of dust and rocks. So it's a ball made up of dust and rocks. Okay, and it does not produce its own light. So the moon does not have its own light. And then how do we see a bright moon in the sky? How do we see a full moon or a crescent moon or a half moon? Right, the answer to that question is it reflects the light from the sun. Okay, now see, the moon revolves around the earth. Okay, the moon also revolves around the earth. Now earth revolves around the sun, so there are times when the light from the sun directly reflects on the moon or reaches the moon, and we could see a full moon that time. Okay, then there are times when only a part of moon gets light from the sun, so we see a half moon and we see a crescent moon, and there are times when there is the light of the sun does not reach the moon. Okay, and that's the time when we see no moon in the sky. All right, children? Yes, so the moon does not have its own light. It reflects the light which it receives from the sun, and the moon also revolves around the earth. All right? Okay. So children, now we know that the earth revolves around the sun, which is called revolution, and it rotates on its own axis, which is called rotation. Okay, there are two different moments. Rotation causes day and night, and revolution causes seasons. Okay, and that is why we have longer days in summers and shorter days in winters. Why is it so? Because part of the earth which receives maximum heat and maximum light will have summer season. Okay, and the days are longer there, the sun. Okay, and there's heat, wherein the part of the earth which receives less heat and less light from the sun, which is away from the sun, experiences winters. And in winters we have shorter days and longer nights, and it's cold outside, isn't it? So this is how seasons are formed. Okay, and now let's look at this model. Please bear with its shape. It's not spherical. This is representing the moon here. Okay, so the moon also revolves around the earth and changes its shape. So actually moon doesn't change its shape. It's the light of the sun which falls on the moon and brightens its parts. So if the light from the sun falls on the moon, then we see the moon bright in the sky. Okay, we see a bright moon there in the sky. When the light of the sun falls partially on the moon, either it's a half moon or a crescent moon. And when there's no light which falls from the sun on the moon, there's no moon. It's a new moon day. Okay, now it takes approximately a month for the moon to go around the earth. Okay, so I have tried to make a working model to show the rotation and the revolution of the earth along with the revolution of the moon around the earth. Okay, so let's see if it works. See, this is the orbit and the moon. So see, this is how the moon revolves around the earth in a fixed path. All right, so this is the path where the moon revolves around the earth. Okay, now similarly the earth also revolves and rotates around the sun. So let's try here, and this is how. See, the earth is trying, in this model the earth is revolving around the sun in a fixed path. If you could see, that's the fixed path. It is revolving around the sun. Okay, and this is how the seasons are formed. All right, so now we know how days and nights are formed, and this is how